The Corvides clade is a diverse and widespread group of birds belonging to the order Passeriformes. It encompasses a remarkable array of species known for their intelligence, adaptability, and complex social behaviors. Ravens, crows, magpies, jays, and other corvids within this clade have demonstrated exceptional problem-solving abilities, tool use, and communication skills, making them a fascinating and ecologically significant group in avian evolution. The cuckooshrikes and allies in the family Campephagidae are small to medium-sized passerine bird species found in the subtropical and tropical Africa, Asia and Australasia. The 93 species are divided into 11 genera. The blue cuckooshrike is a species of bird in the cuckooshrike family, Campephagidae. It is found from Sierra Leone and Liberia to eastern and southwestern Democratic Republic of Congo. Its natural habitats are subtropical or tropical dry forests and moist lowland forests. A molecular phylogenetic study published in 2010 found the genus Coracina was non-monophyletic. Mohouidae is a small genus of 3 bird species endemic to New Zealand. The scientific name is taken from Mohouidae, the Maori name for the yellowhead. All 3 species display some degree of sexual dimorphism in terms of size, with the males being the larger of the 2 sexes. They are gregarious and usually forage in groups. They also forage in mixed species flocks at times, frequently forming the nucleus of such flocks. Social organization and behavior is well documented for all 3 Mohouidae species. Cooperative breeding has been observed in all 3 species and is common in the whitehead and yellowhead. All members of Oreoicidae have melodious piping songs consisting of rhythmically repeating ringing notes of different lengths, typically mostly or all at the same pitch. The bell-like quality of their songs is the source of the common name bellbird. The rufous-naped bellbird is assigned to the monotypic genus Iliadrias. It is found on New Guinea, where its natural habitat is subtropical or tropical moist montane forests. The crested bellbird is native to drier parts of Australia where its typical habitats are acacia scrublands, eucalypt woodlands, saltbush plains, and dunes. The male is about 20 centimeters long and has a gray head, a black crest and breast, and a gray or olive-brown body. The distinctive call is a high-pitched bell-like sound, audible at some distance. Sometimes a pair of birds duets. It feeds on seeds and small invertebrates, foraging on the ground or in low bushes. The deep, cup-shaped nest is usually within a couple of meters of the ground, built in the form of a branch or in a crevice in a stump. It is made from small twigs and bark and lined with finer material. Overall, this bird is quite common, but in some regions, such as Victoria, it is threatened by fragmentation of its habitat. The Bornean bristlehead is a sociable species which often moves steadily in small garrulous flocks of up to 10 birds in the mid and upper canopy of the forest, sometimes accompanied by other large or medium-sized forest birds in mixed species feeding flocks. Its movements in the canopy are slow and heavy, and it flies with a fast, shallow wing beat. It has a massive heavy black hooked bill and a short tail, giving it a chunky appearance. They feed primarily on animal prey, mainly large insects and other arthropods, but also small vertebrates like lizards and frogs. Prey is gleaned from foliage, twigs, branches and trunks at canopy to mid-levels of the forest. Ioras forage in trees in small groups, gleaning among the branches for insects. The call is a mixture of churs, chattering and whistles. They may sometimes imitate the calls of other birds such as drongos. During the breeding season, mainly after the monsoons, the male performs an acrobatic courtship display, darting up into the air, fluffing up all his feathers, especially those on the pale green rump, then spiraling down to the original perch. Once he lands, he spreads his tail and droops his wings. Ioras molt twice in a year, and the plumage variation makes them somewhat complicated for plumage-based separation of the populations. The vangas are an example of adaptive radiation, having evolved from a single founding population into a variety of forms adapted to various niches occupied by other bird families in other parts of the world. They differ in size, color and bill shape, but are similar in skull shape and bony palate structure. All vangas are endemic to Madagascar. Their diet can include insects, earthworms, millipedes and small vertebrates. The male is striking in the typical Oriole black and yellow plumage, but the female is a drabber green bird. Orioles are shy, and even the male is remarkably difficult to see in the dappled yellow and green leaves of the canopy. In flight they look somewhat like a thrush, strong and direct with some shallow dips over longer distances. Eurasian golden orioles may delay breeding until they are 2 or 3 years of age. Males usually arrive at breeding area several days before the females. The fidelity to a territory or even to a specific nest site suggests that the pair bond may continue from one breeding season to the next. The nest is placed high in a tree towards the edge of the crown. The young are fed by both parents but are mostly brooded by the female. A medium-sized songbird with reddish-brown and black plumage, hooded pitohui, is one of the few known poisonous birds, containing a range of batrachotoxin compounds in its skin, feathers and other tissues. These toxins are thought to be derived from their diet and may function both to deter predators and to protect the bird from parasites. The close resemblance of this species to other unrelated birds also known as pitohuis, which are also poisonous, is an example of convergent evolution and Müllerian mimicry. Their appearance is also mimicked by unrelated non-poisonous species, a phenomenon known as Batesian mimicry. The toxic nature of this bird is well known to local hunters, who avoid it. It is one of the most poisonous species of pitohui, but the toxicity of individual birds can vary geographically. Huia was already a rare bird before the arrival of Europeans. It was remarkable for having the most pronounced sexual dimorphism in bill shape of any bird species in the world. The female's beak was long, thin and arched downward, while the males were short and stout, like that of a crow. They were omnivorous and ate adult insects, grubs and spiders, as well as the fruits of a small number of native plants. Males and females used their beaks to feed in different ways. The male used his bill to chisel away at rotting wood, while the female's longer, more flexible bill was able to probe deeper areas. Even though the huia is frequently mentioned in biology and ornithology textbooks because of this striking dimorphism, not much is known about its biology. It was little studied before it was driven to extinction. The fantails are small-bodied birds with long tails. in some species the tail is longer than the body, and in most the tail is longer than the wing. When the tail is folded it is rounded at the end, but when spread in display or aerial foraging it has a characteristic fan shape that gives the family its name. Fantails adopt a hunched horizontal posture most of the time, with the wings drooped and held away from the body and the tail half-cocked. The behavior of many species of fantail has not been studied, but overall, the family is highly uniform in its habits. Anecdotal observations of less studied species suggest a high degree of similarity with the better studied species. Fantails are highly active birds, with several of the smaller species continuously on the move. Even when perched they continue to rock back and forth, spin 180 degrees on the spot, wag their tail from side to side or fan it. In flight they are highly agile and undertake highly aerobatic and intricate looping flights while using their fan tail to catch insects in flight. The ashy drongo is mainly dark gray, and the tail is long and deeply forked. There are a number of subspecies varying in the shade of the gray plumage. Some subspecies have white markings on the head. It has short legs and sits very upright while perched prominently, often high on a tree. It is insectivorous and forages by making aerial sallies but sometimes gleans from tree trunks. They are found singly, in pairs or small groups. During migration they fly in small flocks. Birds of paradise are perhaps best known for the plumage of the males of the species, the majority of which are sexually dimorphic. The males of these species tend to have very long, elaborate feathers extending from the beak, wings, tail or head. For the most part, they are confined to dense rainforest habitats. The diet of all species is dominated by fruit and to a lesser extent arthropods. The king of Saxony bird of paradise's mating courtship behavior consists of a combination of vocalizations and physical maneuvers, enhanced by its magnificent and unique plumage. Its occipital feathers are one of a kind as they no longer possess their regular feather structure, but instead are eye-catching ornaments that possess no functionality. The male's ornamental head plumes are so bizarre that, when the first specimen was brought to Europe, it was thought to be a fake. The male Lausus parotia is a velvet black bird with an erectile silvery white forehead crest, iridescent purple-blue nape and golden-green breast plumes which are structurally colored. The breast plumes have V-shaped barbules, creating thin film microstructures that strongly reflect two different colors, bright blue-green and orange-yellow. When the bird moves the color switches sharply between these two colors, rather than drifting iridescently. During courtship, the male bird systematically makes small movements to attract females, so the structures must have evolved through sexual selection. The inside of its mouth is lime-colored, adorned with 3 ornamental spatule head wires from behind of each eye and elongated black flank feathers, that spread skirt-like in courtship display. The female is a brown bird with dark head, yellow iris and dark barred yellowish-brown below. The iris is colored in various amounts of blue and yellow, changing according to the bird's mood. The standard wing bird of paradise is medium-sized, approximately 28 centimeters long, and olive-brown. The male has a gloss violet and lilac-colored crown and emerald-green breast shield. Its most striking features are 2 pairs of long white plumes coming out from the bend of the wing that can be raised or lowered at the bird's will. The unadorned olive-brown female is smaller but has a longer tail than the male. The males are polygamous. They gather and perform a spectacular aerial display, parachuting with wings and its vivid green breast shield spread, and the wing standards fluttering above its back. Its diet consists mainly of arthropods and fruits. The Victoria's riflebird, it measures between 23 to 25 centimeters. Males have an iridescent purple sheen plumage, which becomes more blue-green on the head and more bronze on the lower breast. The throat is velvety black with a metallic green and blue triangular patch in the center. When the male begins to display, he erects the feathers of his throat and sides to accentuate the bright colors of his plumage in the shafts of sunlight that pierce the dimness of the rainforest. He curves his rounded wings above his body and tilts his head back to expose his chin and throat to the light, and then moves from side to side in a fashion that looks almost mechanical. The pair then face each other closely, and each bird raises and extends its wings forward alternately in an increasingly rapid rhythm. Finally, the male embraces the female with both wings, and copulation ensues. The ribbon-tailed Astropia is medium-sized, up to 32 centimeters long, without including the tail of the male, which can be over 1 meter. The body of males are velvet black. The male has an iridescent olive green and bronze plumage, and is adorned with ornamental ball plume above its bill and 2 extremely long, ribbon-like white tail feathers. The female has a much duller brown and black body with an iridescent head. Unlike males, females do not have the long white tails. One of the most spectacular birds of paradise, the male ribbon-tailed Astropia has the longest tail feathers in relation to body size of any bird, over 3 times the length of its body. This so-called living gem is the smallest and most vividly colored among birds of paradise. The species is polygynous, with the promiscuous adult males displaying in isolation at exploded leks and in groups at traditional arboreal courts. They are perhaps more persistent callers than any other birds of paradise. Courtship involves complex vocalizations, feather manipulations, and a variety of body posturing and movements, including hanging fully inverted and pendulum-like swinging. An extraordinary courtship display is performed by the male with a series of tail swinging, fluffing of the white abdominal feathers that makes the bird look like a cotton ball, and acrobatic movements of their elongated tail wires. Greater birds of paradise, like a majority of their relatives, are fond of fruits and arthropods. Birds in female-type plumage are often found foraging in association with other bird of paradise species and even other bird species. Male greater birds of paradise, as polygynous breeders, experience female selection, in which females choose male mates based upon indirect genetic benefits which increase offspring fitness. Since males do not contribute to offspring in any other way, females have to assess male fitness through courtship rituals, details of which are in the following sections. Males spend the majority of their time during mating seasons at their respective display grounds. They begin calling before sunrise and cease shortly after sunset. The blue jay lives in most of the eastern and central United States. Some eastern populations may be migratory. It breeds in both deciduous and coniferous forests, and is common in residential areas. Its coloration is predominantly blue, with a white chest and underparts, and a blue crest. It has a black, U-shaped collar around its neck and a black border behind the crest. Males and females are similar in size and plumage does not vary throughout the year. 4 subspecies have been recognized. The blue jay feeds mainly on seeds and nuts, such as acorns, which it may hide to eat later, soft fruits, arthropods, and occasionally small vertebrates. They can be very aggressive to other birds. They sometimes raid nests and have even been found to have decapitated other birds. The Eurasian jay is a relatively small corvid. The nominate race has light rufous-brown to a pinkish-brown body plumage. The complex coloring on the upper surface of the wing includes black and white bars and a prominent bright blue patch with fine black bars. In order to keep its plumage free from parasites, it lies on top of anthills with spread wings and lets its feathers be sprayed with formic acid. Similar to other corvids, Eurasian jays have been reported to plan for future needs. Male Eurasian jays also take into account the desires of their partner when sharing food with her as a courtship ritual and when protecting food items from thieving conspecifics. The Eurasian magpie is one of the most intelligent birds, and it is believed to be one of the most intelligent of all non-human animals. The expansion of its nidopallium is approximately the same in its relative size as the brain of chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, and humans. It is the only bird known to pass the mirror test, along with very few other non-avian species. The cognitive abilities of the Eurasian magpie are regarded as evidence that intelligence evolved independently in both corvids and primates. This is indicated by tool use, an ability to hide and store food across seasons, episodic memory, and using their own experience to predict the behavior of conspecifics. Another behavior exhibiting intelligence is cutting their food in correctly sized proportions for the size of their young. In captivity, magpies have been observed counting up to get food, imitating human voices, and regularly using tools to clean their own cages. Generally wary of people in the forest or countryside, western jackdaws are much tamer in urban areas. Highly gregarious, western jackdaws are generally seen in flocks of varying sizes, though males and females pair bond for life and pairs stay together within flocks. Flocks increase in size in autumn and birds congregate at dusk for communal roosting, with up to several thousand individuals gathering at one site. In his book King Solomon's Ring, Konrad Lorenz described and analyzed the complex social interactions in a western jackdaw flock that lived around his house in Altenburg, Austria. He ringed them for identification and caged them in the winter to prevent their annual migration. He found that the birds have a linear hierarchical group structure, with higher-ranked individuals dominating lower-ranked birds, and pair-bonded birds sharing the same rank. The common raven is a large all-black passerine bird. It is the most widely distributed of all corvids, found across the northern hemisphere. It is one of the two largest corvids, and is possibly the heaviest passerine bird. At maturity, the common raven averages 63 centimeters in length and 1.5 kilograms in mass. Although their typical lifespan is considerably shorter, common ravens can live more than 23 years in the wild. They have coexisted with humans for thousands of years and in some areas have been so numerous that people have regarded them as pests. Part of their success as a species is due to their omnivorous diet. They are extremely versatile and opportunistic in finding sources of nutrition, feeding on carrion, insects, cereal grains, berries, fruit, small animals, nesting birds and food waste. Some notable feats of problem-solving provide evidence that the common raven is unusually intelligent. Over the centuries, the raven has been the subject of mythology, folklore, art and literature. In many cultures, the common raven has been revered as a spiritual figure or godlike creature. The Indian jungle crow is resident throughout its range. It is usually seen singly, in pairs or small groups. It is an opportunist and generalist omnivore. It may soften its food by dropping it in water, and have also been observed to eat sand after feeding on meat from a carcass. They have a range of cawing vocalizations. It sometimes flies with special flight styles, hoarse calls in flight or when perched with a puffed throat and accompanied by bowing movements of the head and tail dipping. The behavioral significance of these calls and postures is unknown. The New Caledonian crow is a medium-sized member of the family Corvidae, native to New Caledonia. It eats a wide range of food, including many types of invertebrates, eggs, nestlings, small mammals, snails, nuts and seeds. The New Caledonian crow sometimes captures grubs in nooks or crevices by poking a twig at the grub to agitate it into biting the twig, which the crow then withdraws with the grub still attached. This method of feeding indicates the New Caledonian crow is capable of tool use. They are also able to make hooks. This species is also capable of solving a number of sophisticated cognitive tests which suggest that it is particularly intelligent. As a result of these findings, the New Caledonian crow has become a model species for scientists trying to understand the impact of tool use and manufacture on the evolution of intelligence. The common blackbird has a number of subspecies across its large range. A few of the Asian subspecies are sometimes considered to be full species. Depending on latitude, the common blackbird may be resident, partially migratory, or fully migratory. The adult male of the common blackbird, which is found throughout most of Europe, is all black except for a yellow eye-ring and bill and has a rich, melodious song. The adult female and juvenile have mainly dark brown plumage. This species breeds in woods and gardens, building a neat, cup-shaped nest, bound together with mud. It is omnivorous, eating a wide range of insects, earthworms, berries, and fruits. Both sexes are territorial on the breeding grounds, with distinctive threat displays, but are more gregarious during migration and in wintering areas. Pairs stay in their territory throughout the year where the climate is sufficiently temperate. This common and conspicuous species has given rise to a number of literary and cultural references, frequently related to its song.